Well, it's June 16th, Father's Day, 2024, and I am doing my continuing saga, Ron Holmes, Creek Boy, gone wild now. And so, you know, I'm entering into a phase of my life here in the mid 20s, and you know, on, it's sort of hard to describe because, I've moved to Austin, Texas, and I'm by myself now. My brother was with me in Houston and all that, and I'm by myself, and I had that girlfriend, which was an impulsive thing, and she's gone and all that. But Austin was it was the favorite place I ever lived. It really was. It was a great place. It was young. It was energetic. You know, the college town and all that. And it was the sort of old hippies headquarters, because there were still real live hippies running around Austin all over the place, and it was getting years later, so the hippies were sort of faded away, but there are old hippies still hanging around all over Austin, and music scene was crazy. I mean, there was so much to do, so many interesting things, continually, always something, and I really enjoyed that. I mean, let's see, what are some of the things? I went to a rattlesnake sacking contest where they get these crazy guys, this Heart of Texas snake handling club, rattlesnake handling club. They do a roundup, rattlesnake roundup, and then they have an event where they sack these rattlesnakes. They have a boxing ring with plexiglass sides, and they put two guys in the ring with 10 snakes, and they got to catch the snakes and throw them in a burlap bag. That's the competition, and so there are some things about Austin that were just extraordinary. I never really did get into the University of Texas stuff. It was right there. We drove by the stadium all the time, but I was a West Virginia boy. All this Longhorns, that kind of stuff. It just seemed sort of silly to me. I was Steelers and West Virginia Mountaineers. It was sort of a shock, to move to a totally different place, totally different. And I enjoyed Austin, like I said, better than anywhere I've ever lived because of the things to do. That Lake Travis was there, the Colorado River ran right through town. There was just endless nighttime activities and festivals, and the Olympic bicycling team trained there because it was at the Texas foothills. And of course, at that time, I was really into bicycling. This was in the mid late '70s, and the Arab oil embargo had gone on, and I got mad and said I'm not gonna use any gasoline, and I didn't for 3 years. But Austin was a great place for it. I could ride my bike around everywhere, work, groceries, whatever, and it was fine. Yeah, Austin was a great place, but you know the problem that continued with me was the drinking. Man, I'm telling you, I was the Mr. Party, the drinking and the drugs and stuff. It was getting worse and worse, and it was beginning to affect me. It affected the way people looked at me. It was a strange thing, because I was a drunk, and when you're doing things like that and you look at yourself, it's I mean, you see what you see, and I was just crazy. I was just wide open all the time, and the thing with the girls and all that, and of course that the Austin was the place I ended up getting married, and oh my goodness, it's so stupid. Yeah, this my impulsiveness and craziness continues. It doesn't make any sense. I look back on it and I think, well, what in the world? I knew what I was thinking, but what was I doing? I really, it was out of control. So, bottom line, I'm a retail clothing store manager. So I'm working in a mall, and I had like 20 some employees, whatever, and things were going good. Yeah, I wasn't going to school because I had attained already what I was planning on going to school for, the retail management. So now Russ moved, the guy that was managing the store that I moved to, he moved to the new mall. I took over the store, and just wide open. I mean, I was just crazy, and I got to know the manager of the Gap store, a young men's store called the Gap, which they were basically our biggest competition. But this guy, his name was Scott. He was an odd kind of fella, really odd. He was from Texas, and he drove around this great big old brown Cadillac, and apparently he was from a very well-to-do family, and his dad taught him from his youth up immediately. He said, son, first thing you do is get yourself a big old Cadillac. So that's what he did, and he drove around his big Cadillac, and he was wheeling and dealing. His daddy taught him that, but he comes to me. He says, I got somebody that you've got to meet. He said this gal is a lot of fun. She's crazy. He said she is perfect for you. And I said, what? Get out of here. Well, whatever. So he invites me over. They're having a little get together and all. And sure enough, I go in there, and this woman enters the room, and that was my introduction to Mary Jo Lane, otherwise known as JoJo. And JoJo was a friend of Scott, and I don't know where, how, or whatever, but so he introduced me to this gal, and we were at a party, and somehow we needed beer or something, so she tells Scott, "Let me drive your car. I'll go get some beer." And so he throws her the keys, and she tells me, "Come on, why don't you ride with me?" So I got in that Cadillac with that crazy woman, and she was nuts. She drove like a maniac. Everything she did was like a maniac, and she just laughed and laughed and laughed all the time. I mean, she was just a lot of fun. And anytime she walked into a room, you knew it. I mean, the room lit up. It changed, and that was her personality. And and of course she was wild as she could possibly be, and she had a little boy. He was less than 2 years old. His name was Austin, and Austin's daddy was some convict guy named John something, or I don't know what. John Murray. His daddy's name was John Murray, and he was hiding in Kentucky because he was wanted in Texas, and on and on and on. I don't know. But ended up that JoJo and I began to run around together, and so on and so forth, and I enjoyed her company. She was a lot of fun. I mean, she just was, and it was a party. It didn't make any difference what the drug of choice was, or liquid, or whatever. I mean, she was wide open, and so we went along together, and then something happened. The place that she was living, and she was going to get put out of the place that she was living somehow or another, and so I said, well, you can't go out on the street and all that. I said, if you need a place to live, then I said, you and Austin can move in with me for a while. It's no problem. And she said, no, I can't do that. I told myself that I would never live with somebody again and all that. That if I lived with somebody, I would be married and blah blah blah. So I just shrugged my shoulders. Hey, what? if you want to get married, whatever, we'll just get married. And next thing I know, oh my God, having a little wedding ceremony in our meth head neighbor's house, and I messed up. Oh boy, I messed up. I was in for a ride now. I mean, I'm telling you, that crazy JoJo, between her and me and my problems and my drugs and so on and so forth. And then right around the same time, I ended up getting fired from my job. They gave us a a lie detector test. There was some kind of thieving going on around the mall, whatever, and they wanted to know if it was involving any of us. So they said we're going to give a lie detector test. I didn't think anything of it, and then sure enough, they asked me about smoking pot, and I was busted. I just, yeah, I admitted it that I did, and they fired me. It was just like that, boom, well. So I ended up going to work with my bicycling friend Kenny Guthrie. And Kenny, he was a little older. I was in my late 20s, and he was in his early 40s. And he was an avid cyclist, and that was our affinity. We knew one another. He worked at the bicycle shop, and we became buddies. Well, what ended up when I needed a job, he said, "Well, you can come work for me." And he was doing construction work. Well, I'd never done construction work, I had been a factory worker and a machinist, and things like that, but I'd never built anything and didn't have the knowledge of it. So he said, "Oh, no problem." So he hired me on his construction crew. He had a labor crew for a guy named George Zapalak Construction, and ended up that I became a laborer, carpenter kind of worker, in construction. And life was just, it was changing. It was spiraling out of control now. The drinking, the drugs, just tearing me up. Now I've got this crazy wife, and Shazam if she doesn't get pregnant right out of the gate. I mean, right away. Little Gabe, my oldest son, Gabe's on the way, and she's crazy. I'm crazy. It's just not gonna work. And it didn't. It didn't. Eventually, it blew up. I really don't know all the particulars. I think she was fooling around with her best friend's husband. I think, but I'm not 100% sure. Well, I am. I didn't actually catch him in the act, to put it that way. Yeah, I was sure. But but so she's just starting to really get combative and everything. And I was working this construction job with a guy named Dick, and we were talking, and I said, "Man, Dick, that woman's crazy. I can't be at home for 15 minutes without her going ballistic over something." And he said, "Oh wow, that's bad." I said, "Come on home with me. I'll show you." So he came home. We weren't there 5 or 10 minutes, and she's blowing up over something. And we left, and I went over to his house, and I said, "Dick, do you mind if I sleep on your couch tonight? I don't want to go face that again today." And he said, "No problem." So, we worked together. I slept on his couch. Went to work the next day. Went back home, and JoJo was gone. She was gone. Well, we had a 4-month-old baby. You know, and life is complicated now. She got pregnant, and um, I was thrown into a major personal struggle. Because now it's one thing me running around the countryside, just whatever fits in my car, and who cares, go where I want, do what I want, and now I've got this little baby, this little infant. And his mom is a mess, and she's messing up right out of the gate. So she's fooling around with her best friend's husband when Gabe was just like 4 months old, and so so when I didn't come home that night, she was gone, and she had taken off with this guy. Okay, that's what I suspected, you know. So it ended up that she took Gabe. He was only 4 months old. She took Gabe with her, and she decided that she wanted to carry on with this fellow, and she could take the well, by now Austin was 3 or 4 years old, and she could take him and run around bars and stuff with him. But the little infant, she couldn't do that. So she left this my little baby boy Gabe with her drunken bum friend Scott Libby, and I went to pick him up, and I said, "Man, what is this? You know, he's laying on the floor, dirty diaper, place was filthy, ashtrays spilling over, pizza boxes from weeks before. It was disgusting." So I said, "No, we're not doing this," and I packed him up and I took him home with me. Well, it wasn't long after that, and I mean it got real. You know, I was in total shock. My my whole world was falling apart. You know, I'm dealing with this alcoholism, and I know it's getting me. You know, I know that this is one of the cores of my problems in life. You know, is this alcohol, and you know you got to be drunk to say, hey, yeah, yeah, let's just get married. You know, just for fun. No idea, no concept. You know, and so so now I'm I'm working construction. I got this little baby, and my buddy Jimmy Cepeda has moved back to Austin, and we've hooked up together. And so Jimmy's wife Pepper was babysitting. Oh, excuse me, babysitting for me, and so on. Well, and I was going to work, and then began my I guess we'll use the term spiritual journey, because when I was at work, now I was working for a place called Wayne Lehman Homes. Wayne Lehman, and Wayne, he was sort of a big old loud fella, you know, and he was crooked as a dog's hind leg. He really was. He was shady, but the interesting thing about him was he had this religious penchant of some kind. You know, he uh, he did all kinds of shady stuff. You know, I mean, he ripped people off. He changed products on them. He did all kinds of stuff. But he had this religious spirit, and because of that, he would hire these guys on the crew that were itinerant preachers. You know, they had little churches or some little mission or whatever that they were trying to do, and they needed to work. So Wayne, he had like four preachers working on this job site, and my buddy Dick liked to torment those guys. You know, I mean, I didn't have any idea. You know, in my lifetime, here I am. I was around 28 years old. Okay, and I had gone through my entire life without ever one time having anybody tell me about the basic plan of Christian salvation. You know, nobody, ever. I went to a couple little church things, you know, as a kid or whatever, some little Sunday school. I told you about, you know, gluing burnt matches on a cigar box and turning it into something, you know, things like that. But but there was no inkling, no talk, no suggestion, not from my family, not from my friends, not from anybody. And so you know, I had no idea. Well, I am going into a major life tailspin. You know, I mean, here I am. I've lost my job. My wife is gone. I got this little baby, got to take care of, and I have no family. I got, you know, Jimmy. He was my one real friend there, Jimmy Cepeda and his wife. But I was just I was stuck, and it was making me think. And so, over the course of working with these preachers and Dick, I would listen to them argue. And Dick, he was a joker. I mean, he was a clown. He was a smart man, but he was just a joker, and he intentionally tried to provoke these religious guys into showing off somehow, showing up or whatever, and and he was fairly successful at it. He could mess with them long enough, they'd eventually say okay, and blow up at him a little bit, and then he'd laugh, ha ha ha, got him. But so there was one guy, his name was Eddie, one guy in particular, and Dick would mess with him, and Eddie was always calm and cool. He really was. He was a pleasant guy. Of course, I didn't have any experience with religious people. Christian people. I I I didn't even know any. There were Catholics around me, but that was sort of a joke. I never entertained it as real, but now I'm facing something, and I'm realizing that there's more to life than what I'm doing. And I'm in a position where I got a little baby, and now his mama is deciding that she's going to want him back here pretty soon. Well, so I'm at work, and then one day, I don't know, like the middle of the week, whatever, those guys were fussing about something or other, and Eddie says something about they're going to a meeting in Dallas, and I said, "Oh, a meeting? What do you do there?" And he said, "Oh, and I said, "Well, no, I don't know." And he said, "Well, if you want to come on along." He said, "We got room for you." And he said, "Yeah, we rented a room up there, whatever." He said, "Just come stay with us." I said, "Okay." So I went to Dallas with these guys, and I'm telling you, I had a genuine experience. I mean, I had a religious conversion that was genuine. I mean, I was in dire straits, life falling apart, family falling apart, drinking. I've gone from a retail manager to a construction worker. You know, all this stuff going on. It was spiraling. Well, so we go that weekend, and somewhere along the line, I had my leg was in a cast, like a flexible leg immobilizer, because I'd hurt my knee, so I was hobbling around on crutches, and this cast thing on my leg, this whatever it was, but so I'm in this meeting they're having in a big room in a hotel in Dallas, and I don't know what's going on. I have no idea what's going on. This organization, these people, I really I don't know who they were or what they were. I mean, honestly, I don't know. But so I go in this room, and they had a church service, and so I wasn't familiar with it. I didn't know what went on. And they had some overhead projector, when they put the songs up on the projector, and a little thing bounced along as you were singing, and whatever. And then they had a speaker, and the guy, um, he wasn't much of what I would term a rousing speaker at all, but he told a story, and and the story was about somebody that was sort of incorrigible, and so on and so forth, and he was dealing with some guy, and the guy was just playing him, fooling with him, and he's telling him he's going to kill himself, and he said, "Well, go ahead, I'll help you." He said, "What? What do you mean?" He said, "Yeah." He said, said before your life's going to go anywhere, he said you're going to have to die, and he explained the plan of salvation. You know, I mean, simple thought today, but back then, you know, I wasn't really getting it. But I'm telling you, I was under the gun. I mean, I was the old fashioned conviction, you know, and I mean, it was like God jumped on me with both feet, and so at the end of this little ceremony, whatever, they had an altar call, and I didn't even know what it was, you know, but they're having this altar call, and for whatever reason, I just pushed the guy who was next to me out of the way, and I said I got to go down there. And I went down there, and I had some guy come down, and he was just as kind and gentle as he could be, and he ended up he realized I didn't know anything. I had no idea what was happening. I didn't know, you know, like the concept of an altar call. I didn't know that. I didn't know about salvation. I didn't know about repentance. I didn't know anything, nothing. And this guy comes up and he just put his arm around me, you know, and he starts talking to me. He starts talking about the plan and stuff. I said, man, I don't even know what you're talking about, you know. So he says, well, come with me. So he took me out in the hallway, and we stood out there and we talked, and he just explained the basic plan of salvation to me. He said, is that what you want to do? I said, well, yeah, man. You know, why wouldn't I? You know, you're offering me everything for nothing. You know, I mean, I'm sinner deluxe. You know, I mean, yeah, I was chief among sinners. I guess Paul said, and I definitely was. You know, um, so I really something happened to me. It was momentous what happened to me, and I really I got little to no instruction other than I needed to repent, and I did, you know, and I was serious, you know. So I after the weekend we went back home, and I go to work. I'm still hobbling around with my knee and all that, but I was working by myself in this room, and it was amazing because it just seemed as though I heard an audible voice over my shoulder telling me, you need to pack up and go to Manassas where your mother is. You know? And I'm saying, what? You know, I mean, what do you do with that when some you know you have this thing that happens to you? You know, you're getting somebody talking to you just like clear as a bell, but there's nobody there, and so I thought, well, okay, Mr. Impulsive once again. So, you know, my JoJo's gone, and just me and Gabe and Jimmy and Pepper helping me, you know, and all that, and I'm working, but I needed some support, you know. So I'm there at work, and it was just like I got tapped on the shoulder and said, you need to just start packing your stuff and get out of here, and go where your mom's at so she can help. And I just said, okay, you know, okay. And so before the day's work was over, I went to the office and I said, Wayne, I got saved last weekend. God told me I need to move to Virginia where my mom's at, so I'm quitting. He said, oh, and he didn't flinch, you know. I mean, he just understood the concept of God talking to somebody and telling them what to do, you know, which I didn't. And so he said, well, okay, you can come by and get your check tomorrow if you want. And I told him I would. So I went home, and sure enough, who calls? But let's do it this way first. I went home. I called my mom. My mom said, "Come on," and I said, "Okay." So the next day, I sold a couple of things. I always kept a little money, but I sold a couple of things and just gave the rest of the stuff away. And I bought a plane ticket for me and Gabe. And I had this plane ticket in my hand, and the phone rings, and it's JoJo, and she says, "I'm just calling to tell you that I'm coming to get Gabe." I said, "What? You're not taking care of him. You're not coming to get him." She says, I already talked to the lawyer. You can't stop me." And I said, "Oh?" She said, "Yeah, you can't stop me." Well, I had the plane ticket in my hand, and I just said, "Look, it's not right, and blah blah blah. You're not taking care of him, and this, that, and the other." And she says, "Well, you can't stop me. I'm gonna come get him." Well, next day, I was on the airplane. Me, a 4-month-old baby, and two green duffel bags, one with his worldly goods in it, and one with mine. Left my car, left my Centurion Le Mans bicycle that I love so dearly. Yeah, I mean, I just left it all. I even left my fishing stuff. It was serious. So so my Texas experience was tumultuous. I mean, it was good in the sense of the Creek Boys on a grand adventure in Texas. I mean, it is a grand adventure. There's no winter. Uh, the people, the Texans were at that time in the 70s. They were great, man. I mean, they were independent minded people. Very other than the big cities. I hated Houston and Dallas. Those places they're just big cities. But Texas as a whole was a wonderful place. Wonderful people. The Hispanic culture there. I was immersed in that with Jimmy and his family, and they accepted me, and I just enjoyed them. I enjoyed their company. I enjoyed their food. I enjoyed they laugh, and we really had a excuse me, grand time. And what are some of the other things? Texas was it was just an extraordinary adventure because I would go to take a drive to San Antonio, and it was just a great city, with the canals and the Alamo and all that. And of course, I had gone to basic training there at Lackland Air Force Base in San Antonio. But yeah, I would go to San Antonio and some of the little towns around. New Braunfels was a very German oriented town, and a lot of Germans and Czechoslovakians. So I really liked it. The music in Austin, 7 days a week. You could go to music events 7 days a week. I mean, there was great music in it, and all kinds. I heard punk bands. I heard Willie Nelson. There were just Commander Cody and the Lost Planet Airmen at the Armadillo World Headquarters. It's funny, they Commander Cody has this song, and it says, "I never had too much fun." The song's named "Too Much Fun." Well, they sang that song when I saw them at the world famous Armadillo World Headquarters. It was world famous back then. Like it was like the Fillmore East and places like that. So Austin had so much going on, and it was good stuff. There was always something interesting, Texas with the cowboy culture. Of course, I went to some rodeos, and like I said, the rattlesnake sagging contest, and there were just all sorts of things like that. And back then, the frisbees were in, and they'd have big competitions down by the river. I mean, it was a cool place. It really was, and the people were free spirited. You know, like things like smoking pot. You didn't think about it being illegal. I never knew anybody. Well, I knew one guy that he was a horror story. He, I don't know whether I mentioned it, but poor dude got arrested for smoking a joint in a park in Dallas and got a life sentence. And I think he ended up spending 15 years before they let him go. Yeah, for nothing. Crazy. Um, yeah, but there was sort of a freewheeling kind of spirit in Austin and in Texas in general. I easily identified with being a Texan. Their independence and to this day they claim they're a republic. They're not a state, and if you tick them off, they can leave anytime they want. And I think it's fair, but yeah, it was a grand place. Austin was great. Unfortunately, years later, I went back, couldn't even find the mall that I worked at. It was so congested, so covered up. You could drive around that town at any time back when I lived there, and the highways were open. And now it's just a nightmare. And then they've got all these Looney Tunes left wing people have taken over. They used to have these signs that keep Austin weird, because it was different. It was hippies, old time hippies. I always said they were stuck in a time warp. But it was an interesting place, interesting people, vibrant. It was growing and healthy and all that, and I loved it with all my heart. But suddenly now, I have a little boy. He is 4 months old, and he is depending on me. His mama's not taking care of him, and she's not going to. I mean, she's partying, and she just doesn't care. As far as I can tell. But so bottom line was I was having a great time. I loved Texas. I loved Austin. I loved the whole thing, but I got a baby now, and I love my baby more. Uh, my life's priorities. It's not drinking anymore. When I came home from that weekend in Dallas, that meeting where I was converted, I never drank again. I never drank again. It was over. I was such a slave to it, and I never drank again. And so I get back home and I told my buddy Kenny Guthrie, my bicycling buddy and construction buddy. I told Kenny what had happened, and I said, Kenny, I went to this meeting over the weekend and I got saved. I never heard of such a thing. He says, oh yeah, man. He said my grandmother used to take me to church when I was a kid. He said, yeah, I know all about it. He started telling me, and I said, why didn't anybody ever tell me? You know. It's supposed to be the good news. Nobody told me anything, and I had no idea. When I told Kenny, I thought I found some amazing thing, and that he needed to find out about it too. I thought everybody did. Well, so I'm sitting at Kenny's kitchen table. We're talking about this experience, and sure enough, he's just my old party buddy, and he pulls out his rolling papers and rolls up a joint and he lights it, and we're talking about God. He lights it, he hands it to me, and I looked at it and I thought, man, I don't know. I know the drinking's wearing me out, but what about the weed, And so I thought, well, yeah, Kenny knows about all this and he's doing it, so I guess it'll be all right. Well, it ended up I did indeed get high, and as soon as I started getting high, a fear came over me. I was scared. And I said, Lord, if you bring me down this time, I will never do it again. And I didn't for 30 some years. Yeah, I mean, it was just, everything was just so amazing. It was just, suddenly I'm this worn out, drunken idiot ruining his life and his family. Now I got a little baby I got to take care of, no support system, and all this is going on. And then I go to this meeting and I go away just thinking I got the world by the tail. You know, that's I think. Well, y'all may not know this, but I got God on my side. You can't. What are you gonna do to me? You know. I mean, that was just my thinking. You know. I genuinely I genuinely became very confident and just sort of giddy happy, and as life is falling apart, and I'm having to leave my baby's mama and go across the country again, start over. But it ended up that we got on the plane and we went, and my mom and dad picked me up, and they took me the next day. They said, okay, now you come here, and we're going to take you to the lawyer, and you apply for custody of your kid. And so they took me down to this D.C. lawyer. His name was Joe something or other. I don't remember. But so he starts telling me. He said, "Look, man, you've got some shut that off. Real issues coming up here." He said, "I just had a situation where a guy wanted custody of his kids. His wife was a prostitute, and the court gave her custody because each of the kids could have their own bedroom. He said it's not fair. It's stacked against men, and he said you're gonna have a hard time. He said we'll do our best. He said, but make no mistake, the system is stacked against men. Well, I was not in the least bit concerned. I said, it is no problem. It is no problem. I got God on my side, and this is all gonna work out. It's gonna be fine. And, and my lawyer, he said, well, for your sake, I hope so. He said, we'll see. He said, we'll do our best. And so he told me not to have any contact with anybody from Texas and so on and so forth. And so I went and I filed for custody and so on. And uh, in the meantime, I got associated with the Church of God there in Manassas, and so I was doubly convinced that it was all going to work out. And of course, the bottom line is that it did. It really did. And I'll have to start back up, and we'll talk about my time in Manassas, and I moved in with my mom and my dad, and my mom was great. She was great help. Everything ended up working well. So yeah, to encapsulate my Texas time, it was prime 20s. When I finally got saved in Dallas, I was 28, I think. But I think that's what I was, 28. So I was in I was strong, I was healthy. As hard as I tried to beat my brain with alcohol and drugs and stuff, I was a sharp man. I mean, I could adapt and pick up most anything that I set my mind to. So I'm headed to a new adventure. I'm headed going to be living in Manassas and basically starting a new life. But as usual, as usual, um, it just seems as though, in hindsight, and I'm doing these recordings, um, not just to tell on myself, and not to make myself appear one way or another, good, bad, or ugly, whatever. Um, I just want to try to help, help people that were in my position to realize that there indeed is a spiritual aspect to us as human beings, and we can't escape it. We can be wild as a coot, we can be whatever, and most everybody gets tracked down, and the Spirit of God talked to me, and I didn't even know what it was. I had no idea. So, but one thing, make no mistake, I'm wide open. Once again, and now, um, my my zeal that I had for partying and adventure and experiences and crazy and all that stuff. Well, now I'm entering into a phase now where I got a baby to take care of. You know, I've sort of muddled along and really, I've started to form some skills and things, marketable skills that I can make money, and so life is coming along, but now my attitude changes. My purpose changes, my goals, my priorities. Now, my biggest priority in life is my son. That's the biggest priority that I've got, and I've got to feed him. I've got to make sure he's cared for, even when I'm at work. I've got to raise this kid, and I can't be drunk. So so I quit drinking, and it was cold turkey. It was just over. It was interesting because I was a wide open alcoholic, drank hard every day, passed out every night, and and when I got converted, it was gone. The desire, and I quit smoking cigarettes on my own, which is very addictive. I I was able to discipline myself with physically riding the bicycle and all that. I told you I was even in Austin. I was even a vegetarian for 3 years. Everything was sort of health kick, bike riding, adventures, and now now it's getting real. Now I can't be just bouncing around. Now I've got this kid to take care of, and now I've got to find my church footing here. I feel as though I need to go to church, and the guys that were instrumental in teaching me and getting me saved, I went to a couple of sort of storefront meetings with them, but that was it. I think maybe once or twice was all, and I was gone. I ended up going to Virginia. But they were great guys. I don't know what their organization was. I don't know what their teachings were at all. All I know is that guy, he put his arm on my shoulder and started telling me about the plan of salvation. And I just, wow, you serious? Wow, this is possible for me? And so it opened up another phase of life, right? But what I want to encourage my my youth, my progeny, my kids, grandkids, great grandkids, friends, whatever, whoever, um, pay attention to what you're doing. You know, realize that life is not just fun and games and superfluous, for lack of a better word. Um, there's some seriousness about it, and when you start having kids, it's serious. It is, and and so I've got to take care of me and keep me straight. I've got to take care of my baby. My mama's helping me, but I'm a single dad. I got an infant, you know, and I'm needing to get a job and get settled in and so on. So I'll tell you about all that next time. But it's been fun. Texas was great. I still love Texas. I still love Austin, even though it's been destroyed. And I really hate to say it, but poor Huntsville's growing like Austin did. And in 10 or 20 years, my kids aren't even going to recognize it. I know that from experience in Texas, and yeah, it's going to get crazy here. But life goes on. But that was my Texas experience, and I learned that I have to think. It taught me you can't just say, "Oh, well, let's just get married." You can't just say, "Oh, well, I'm going to wherever, throw my stuff in my car and I'm gone." You you've got to at some point, you know, establish a little responsibility and take care of the things that are in your charge. So, I began at that point to begin to make steps. I was making steps. I really was. I mean, I went to machinist school. I went to business school for a year, and so on. And I had taken some steps and learned sales. Which was huge, a huge benefit in life. But I was acquiring skills, mechanical skills and so on and so forth. And so I was headed in the right direction now. Before it was just this, things would happen, this happened and that happened and this happened. Try this and try that, and somebody suggests this, or go here or move there. Well, um, I still got it in me. I got it in me today. I do. I'll be 70 next week, and honestly, I have to fight it all the time. There's something in me that just wants to throw a bag in my car and go, you know. And if I didn't have, well, financial restraints, of course, but if I didn't have like my physical limitations, body breaking down stuff, if I didn't have that, I hate to say it, but I would still be wandering around. I would. I've got it in me. I would go today. I would leave tonight to go to West Virginia if I could, if I was healthy, if I was strong, if I was able to do the things I once did, if I could work, make some money, I'd live half the time in West Virginia and half the time in Alabama. But I've got to be in a place where I can get old and break down. I trust my kids will help me. Uh, the next I guess 40 years. Yeah, Gabe's turning 40 September. So these next 40 years is spent taking care of my babies. And I was with them today. They had me for Father's Day. I love them. I love my grandkids. They're beautiful, and it's a real blessing in life, and I'm thankful for them. I really am. I've I've done some good things in life and some bad things and some whatever. But my kids, I really I meant it. When I had them, I said, okay, until you're on your feet, I'm gonna be there for you, and I have been. I've been there for them, and they've been there for me, and I'm thankful. It's great in old age. But Texas taught me, don't be a pinball machine guy. Get a direction, and get a goal, and so on. And now that I've got kids, I'm getting a direction. Now I've got a spiritual aspect to my life now, and that had been missing the whole time. Never heard of anything to do with salvation ever. Never heard the word. No concept. But God was faithful to me. But all right, so that's going to end my Texas. If you're young and impetuous, control yourself, get some direction, and don't just follow every impulse. Especially with the girls, fellas. Listen to me now. I love you. I'll talk to you soon. Bye.